Good morning again, everyone, and welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel, and welcome back to a lovely sunny Florida where the weather's always spectacular. And oh no, wait, tell you what, like some days I think we'd be better suited if we were a duck. All right, so first order of business today is going to be some new rear shocks on the back of Mullet. And a long time ago, I talked about wishing that the car had a longer rear shock on it. Well, the idea for that is so that the car can separate, but like you guys saw in the previous video, the suspension really wasn't working to separate all that much. Well, the way I tune rear suspensions in drag race cars, especially drag radial cars, I tune them to where they separate and they're pushing the tire into the ground as they're going down the racetrack. Well, if you run out of shock, the shock can't extend anymore. Obviously, it's not pushing the tire into the ground. That's not the problem we were having. The suspension geometries before were going to the point where the car was not pushing the tire into the ground once it got down track a little ways. So now that we have probably fixed that, we really should get a longer shock on this thing. So talked to buddies at AFCO, and they have put us together a new set of rear shocks for the car that are longer. Took them a little while to build them. So you guys know, with all the stuff that's going on in the world right now, it's kind of hard to get parts on the way and parts ordered, especially custom stuff. So we put in the order for these shocks a while back. I'm a huge fan of AFCO shocks. We've used them on, Soccer Mom, the Lawn Dart, the Dirty Dime, which you guys haven't seen in a while. In all of the cars that I've had a hand in, I've always tried to get an AFCO shock on. I can see differences in them when I make changes to the shocks, whether it be the extension or the compression. And that kind of changing and that kind of tunability is what you need when you're trying to go to a racetrack and you're trying to go fast and make changes to adapt to the track. So with having a longer rear shock, we're also going to have to change to a longer rear shock sensor. You can see this shock sensor is pretty well topped out. So we're going to do that, and most likely I'm also going to have to build new anti-roll bar end links for right here. Make one change, make 5 more to accommodate the change you really wanted to make to the car. as expected, gotta make some changes. We need to lengthen our anti-roll bar end lengths like I was thinking. And you guys may have seen in one of the previous videos that we changed to longer brake lines so that the rear end can separate more. And maybe you saw when I was lowering the car and lifting the car how the rear end was still separating away from the car as the tires were already off the ground. So you'll see that a lot in front suspension stuff. And kind of the reason for that is you can let the shock control how fast the tire is dropping. Well, if it pulls it off the ground, obviously that's not ideal, but if it does come off the ground, at least it can still be extending a little bit more, and then that'll give you more cushion for when she comes back down. Like if you just lock all the front travel out of a car on a killer track, yeah, that may go down. But if it ever stands up, you have no front suspension travel to absorb any of the landing, and as you might imagine, things get squished and crushed and broken, and we don't want that. So what we're trying to do is keep as much front travel in the car as we can. Works better over a broader range of racetracks, but it also gives some room for the thing to set down soft if it ever does wheelie. I expect that one day we're going to wheelie this thing, even though I've got a wheelie control program in it, and it's pretty aggressive. But sometimes if you get real aggressive, sometimes you can power through that and she'll stand up, which would be exciting for video, but not so exciting if it lands and tears up a bunch of stuff. And then the next thing to do will be change the front springs, and then we're going to put this thing back on the scales, balance it all out, set the anti-roll bar. Remember, we've had the rear end all out of this thing, so I want to get that basic preload right with the driver weight in the car before I go hooking stuff back up, because having everything loose, things could be not where they need to be as far as the corner balances go, and we don't want old Cletus popping off the trans brake and the thing turns the hard left or turns hard right. But we're gonna get back to work, keep trucking at this thing and see if we can get her done. All right, so I wanted to kind of show you guys some tips on setting up your own anti-roll bar. For those of you that buy a kit and want to install it yourself, a lot of good companies sell anti-roll bar kits. So my preference are the TRZ Motorsports anti-roll bars. I put them on literally every drag car that we do here in the shop. But as far as setup stuff goes, there's a couple things you need to watch out for and be mindful of while you're installing your anti-roll bar and setting up your end links. So we're gonna slide under the car here. Let's see if we can get over here. So while I had the car in the air and the suspension at full droop, I set up the anti-roll bar where it was almost in a straight line from the end links, kind of like that, except the rear end was a lot further down. And the thing you need to be mindful of is you never want these 3 points, the center of your anti-roll bar, the bolt on the top of the end link, and the bolt on the bottom of the end link, to get pulled into a straight line. If those pull into a straight line, you lift the car up on a lift, you say you jack it up by the frame to change your tires and this goes straight, well, it has the potential to pop and go the other way, and then your anti-roll bar is useless. It's not doing anything. What you want to do, or what you want to maintain while the car is at ride height, is an angle here that is as close to 90 degrees as you can get without going straight with the rear end hanging in the air. So if I extend out the end links that we had set up on the car, there's just not a lot of rod end left threaded into this. So TRZ sent me one of their universal anti-roll bar end link kits, which has a steel piece and then threaded tube inserts that go into each end, and that's going to give us the ability to set these exactly where we want them. It's really close to working, I'll be honest. It's really close, but I'd really prefer to have more engagement for the rod ends into the anti-roll bar end links themselves. So we're gonna weld up some new ones, put those in. Then I'm gonna snatch the front shocks out to change the front springs. I really think we've got a dead front spring on the car, meaning that we coil bound it. I think it was in Norwalk. Cletus and I were pulling back into Norwalk and we hit a wicked bump, and ever since then the car just kept getting lower and lower and lower and lower. So after seeing how much the front of the car weighed, I kind of wanted to put a stiffer front spring in the car anyway. I thought the front spring was a little light. And now while it's here, AFCO sent us some springs, so we're gonna go ahead and put those in. A little bit, we upped the spring rate, I think it's 50 pounds. I'll find out for sure when we get them out, but I have a feeling that the right front spring is gonna be way shorter just freestanding, but we're gonna find out here in just a little bit. All right, well, we're gonna take the springs off of the shocks, and already I can tell we got something going on, because these springs, when we first put them on, they weren't loose on the shock. In fact, I had to actually preload them to get the piece inside the shock there. And I can tell where the powder coating has been. You can see where the powder coating has been completely flattened out here, and it's starting to peel off, which really makes me think, see, it's in between that coil. When Cleese and I hit that bump or pothole or whatever the heck it was pulling into Norwalk, we really smashed up the springs. Completely coil bound them. So these are actually 350s. Ooh. Which for the weight of Mullet, definitely a little on the light side. So I'm gonna take these off and let's compare them. Let's compare them to the other side. Not compare them to, well, we'll compare them to the other side, and we'll compare them to a fresh out of the box shock. Oop, there went the thing. So these were 10-inch springs when we first put them in the car. These should be 10-inch springs coming out of the box. Maybe they're not as messed up as I thought they were. We're about to find out. Well, that that tells you a little something. Yep, dead on 10 inches. And this one is 9 3/8. So lost 5/8 of an inch on the left front. Will the right front be more or less? Going by how hard this is to get out, I'm guessing it's going to be about the same. See, a little bit less. So the left front is the one that took the beating. Well, now we know. Now what you will be able to see when I slide this on, I don't believe there's any way I'm getting that under without using my shock spring installer tool. Alright, well, as you can see, it's dark outside, and I'm going home. Appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. You guys know the deal about the website, winwithksr.com, if you want to get some merch. We've got shirts and hats and stickers and some lanyards, all kinds of stuff, and we've got a couple of new shirts in the works. Still waiting for an artist to get back to us with some proof so that we can get our new shirts finalized. We will also be at the Danger Ranger 9000 and the Drift Night the night before down at the Freedom Factory next weekend. So if you guys want to come down, see us all there. We're not racing in the Danger Ranger 3000. Cletus really wanted me to, but I know he wants to beat me. He loves it. Like when we go kart race, he smoked me up in Charlotte when we were up there for the streetcar takeover. He was a happy giraffe. Anyways, but I've got so much work in the shop, I couldn't take the time really to prep one, even though I really wanted to do it. Trying to look out for my customers and take care of them. We are getting the Chevy 2 ready for LS Fest, and I've got a video coming on it within the next day or two. It's kind of some past footage I've shot, catching us up, hopefully to where we are right now, but get that up in a few days. Thanks again for watching and subscribing and commenting and liking and sharing and all that fun stuff. We will see you guys in the next one.